So looking at the worksheet that's today's assignment, we're going to do a little bit on here, then we're going to go back to the notes, and then you can do the back. So the front here, it just says find the value of each trig ratio. So this goes back to the very beginning when all you're doing is looking and seeing, okay, this says sine of x. That means sine of angle x. So you want to go and put a mark on angle x. And then you're going to label your triangle opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So go ahead and do that according to this angle. Which side is opposite, which side is the hypotenuse, which side is the adjacent. So what is this one? Opposite. This one is the, and then the one that's remaining has to be the adjacent. So sine, what do we use for sine? Opposite over hypotenuse. So that means it's going to be 18 over 30. Do we need to reduce that if we can? Absolutely. Can we reduce it?
Yeah.
Divide both of them by what?
3.
So that would be 6/10. Can we go a little more?
Yeah. 2.
So in the beginning, oh, wait a minute. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, wait a minute. Originally we divided by 3.
Yeah, you're supposed to have it 3 over 5.
3 over 5, that's what I did wrong. I knew something wasn't looking right there.
Yeah, same.
Okay, because we divided by 2 there. So originally we could have divided each of them by 6, and we could have done the reducing in one step if we would have seen it. But we don't always see the largest number first. We just always need to look at what we get and see if it's the smallest value. Okay, so look at number 2. It's from angle x. Now angle x is over here. So label opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So this one is what? Opposite. Over here is the hypotenuse, and here is the adjacent. This is asking for cosine. So cosine is
Adjacent over hypotenuse.
So let's see, that's going to be what? Over 25. Did you happen to like draw on yours with blue?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's up here. I just noticed that there was this random one that didn't look like mine. So divide both of those by what? 5?
Can you make it bigger, please?
Is that big enough?
Is that good enough, mister?
Okay. Okay. I'm going to now give you 5 minutes or less to do problems 3 through 10. So just do the front. Yeah, all you're doing is writing this down. Do as many as you can in the next 5 minutes. So number 3 should be 5/13. Number 4 should be 4/5. Number 5 should be 7/24. Number 6 should be 3/4. Now, as you're looking at these, if you didn't finish them yet, don't write the answer down. You have the answers on Canvas, so you can go back and check them later. You need to have the practice of doing it. So just correct the ones you have, and then you can correct the other ones after you finish them. Number 7 is 3/5. Number 8 is 3/5. Is that right? Are they both 3/5? Okay, I was just making sure I didn't copy one down wrong. And number 9 is 12/37, and 10 is 7/25. So are there any questions on any of those? Like you got something different than what I did? No? You feel good about doing these and just doing the ratio? Give me a thumbs up if yes, a thumbs down if no. Or sideways if it's like wishy-washy. Pretty good? Okay. Okay, so let's go to your flip book, back to where we started. And we're under the tab that says Finding Angles. There's an example at the top that's done for you, but what I want to do is just go through one as I explain it. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Forgot that I had turned that screen off. Okay, so you're on the Finding Angles. It's example 14 we're looking at. Is everybody there? It's under the Finding Angles on the trig ratio side. Number 14. Okay, so what we're doing now is the week before, we did some work where we're finding the sides of the angles, the triangles. Now we're actually going to find angle measurements. Okay, and this says round to the nearest tenth. On your worksheet that you're doing today, it's going to say to the nearest degree. So I'll talk a little bit about that, what the difference is. But a lot like what we did when we were finding sides, what we have to do is decide what trig ratio we have the information to be able to use. So whatever angle you're trying to find, that's the angle you're going to use. So put an arc on that angle that says X degrees. We're trying to find out what the degree measurement is of that angle. Label your triangle opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse according to that angle. So this is going to be opposite, this is going to be hypotenuse, and this is going to be adjacent. So according to the information I have the hypotenuse and I have the adjacent. So what trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to write the cosine of x degrees, or you can just write the cosine of x, is fine, if the degrees gets confusing and you think it's a 0, equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so this is going to be 6 over 11. Now this is a little different because we don't know what the degree measurement is. Before we would put this over a 1 and cross multiply, right? But we had a degree measurement in here so we could use our calculator. We're kind of working backwards here. We know what the ratio is, but we don't know what the angle is. So what's really nice is our calculator does a lot of the work for us. So does everybody have one of my calculators? If you didn't get one yet, can you go get one?
I don't. Close to this. Remember, it's across the way.
Because you're going to want one of these. Okay. So now looking at the calculator, I don't know if you've noticed this last week, But here we have sine, cosine, and tangent, right? Up above, you have something that says sine to the negative 1, cosine to the negative 1, and tangent to the negative 1. Those kind of undo the sine, cosine, and tangent functions. Or if you know what the ratio is, it gets you back to what the angle measurement is supposed to be. So what I want you to write here now is we're going to kind of write this in reverse. We're going to write cosine to the negative 1 of 6 over 11 equals x. What we're really doing is writing what we call the inverse of it. And once you rewrite it like that, that's exactly how you put it in the calculator. So how do you get it to cosine of negative 1? You hit shift. So you hit shift, turn it on, shift, then the cosine button, which is going to do cosine to negative 1, and then in parentheses, put 6 divided by 11, or write it as a fraction, equals, so it's 56.9. Because we're going to, this is the 10th spot. We're going to look one past it. If the next one's a 5 or above, we'll round that up. If it's below a 5, we leave it. So that's rounded to the 10th. If I asked you to round it to the nearest whole number, like the worksheet, what would your answer be? Then it would be 57, because you're going to look the first number past the decimal, it's higher than a 5, so we would round that to 57. Okay? And now if we kind of take this backwards a little bit, and we just say, we're going to check, what is the cosine of 56.9 degrees? So hit cosine 56.9. It's about 0.5461, right? Now, what is 6 divided by 11? What if that was a decimal? Point 5454. And for this, because we've done some rounding, those would be this, they're very close to each other. We're not going to get them exact. And I'm not going to have you do this all the time, but I'm just showing you that's what we're doing, is we're finding those numbers. If we would have put our answer in here, instead of putting in 56.9, if we would have put in the actual answer we got, not rounded off, we would get the actual same thing as we got here. Okay. Okay, so are we done there? Okay. Is what? Okay, so if, like, these would both round to 0.55, right? So we can say that they're close. And the reason they're not exact is because we rounded here. Okay? If we would have used the whole big number that I got as my ratio and put that in, then they would have been exact. Okay, it's because when you take a number, a solution that you've rounded off and tried to check it, you're not going to get the exact same number as if you didn't round. Okay. Okay. So let's look at number 15 real quick. So it's the same type of thing, but now our angle's in a little different position. So go ahead and label opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So which side is the side opposite? 100. Which side is the hypotenuse? And then the one that doesn't have a value is the adjacent, right? Okay, if this is a step that you're getting stuck on, make sure you ask Ms. Dodson or myself to help you with this. Because I always seem to find somebody like later in the chapter that is getting stuck on this and is afraid to ask. So if this is troubling you, make sure you get this straightened out because you can't do the rest of the work without it. Right, Israel? Okay. Okay, so I need the trig function that uses opposite and hypotenuse. Which trig function is that? Sine. You guys, everybody see why it's sine? Okay. So you're going to write sine of x equals 100 over 178. For our work here, there's no need to reduce it, okay? Because we're going to use those numbers within our problem. You could, but why? Because then you might make a mistake. So we know we want to go backwards and find out what x is. So you say sine to the negative 1 of 100 over 178 equals, and you use your calculator. So go ahead and try it. Hit shift, sine, round it to the nearest tenth.
It says match error.
You didn't put something in right. You either have to do sine negative 1, you either put it in using parentheses around it, or use the fraction key. Make sure your calculator's in the degree mode. So what'd you guys get? 34.2 degrees. Were you able to get it, Israel? And what did we get here? What? Did I put something in wrong? Tangent 676. So what'd you get? 2.2? Okay, I'm still putting something in wrong. Tangent to the negative 1. 676. Over 922.
I got 36.
36.2. Always helps to maybe do it twice. Make sure you get the same thing. Because it's easy to put, for your finger to hit a wrong number or something. Okay, any questions? No? Okay. So looking at your worksheet now, this is what you're doing. Same thing. It just says question mark. You can call those angle X if you want. Just instead of a question mark, put an X in for all of those. Or an A or something. So go ahead and I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to work and see how far you can get. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 problems, and then I'll share those answers so we can see if we have any questions before I just release you to work. So here's the answers to the first 4. I know most of you probably aren't done with all 4, but are there any questions on those ones?
We just can't read it. Hold on. Yeah, that's a 15. He thought it was a 16. That's why I got the wrong number. But you did it right.
Any questions on these first 4? Okay, then roll. And if you do have a question, let me know. On Canvas, you have the answers to all of them. So you can, once you get past these, you can pull up Canvas and start looking to see if you have them correct or not.
What should you got for number 11?
26.
Oh.